The grand ballroom of Manhattan's Grand Plaza Hotel shimmered under the glow of crystal chandeliers, their light refracting across a sea of white roses and polished marble. 300 guests, dressed in tailored suits and glittering gowns, filled the space with murmurs of anticipation. Today was meant to be the wedding of the year. Ethan Caldwell, a 35-year-old white American and CEO of Caldwell Properties, was to marry Lauren Pierce, a poised socialite whose beauty and charm had graced New York society pages for years. The air buzzed with excitement, but Ethan, standing at the altar in his custom-tailored tuxedo, felt a knot of unease tighten in his chest. At 35, Ethan was a titan in real estate development, commanding boardrooms with the same ease he closed multi-million-dollar deals. His sharp blue eyes and easy confidence had made him one of New York's most eligible bachelors, a title he'd worn proudly until Lauren's proposal acceptance had promised to redefine his future. As he adjusted his cufflinks for the third time, his best friend and best man, Nathan Reed, leaned in. "Relax, man," Nathan whispered, his voice light but firm. "You're fidgeting like you're about to negotiate a hostile takeover." "I'm fine," Ethan muttered, though his clenched jaw betrayed him. He glanced at his Patek Philippe watch, a subtle flex of his success. The ceremony was supposed to start 10 minutes ago. Ethan Caldwell was not a man accustomed to waiting. His days were measured in precise increments, each moment accounted for in the high-stakes world of Manhattan real estate. Yet he stood, the center of attention, waiting for a bride who seemed to have vanished. His mother, Evelyn Caldwell, approached, her silver hair swept into an elegant chignon, her face a mask of practiced calm. "Ethan, darling," she said softly, her voice barely audible over the hum of the crowd. "Have you heard from Lauren? Her bridesmaids say she's not answering her phone." Before Ethan could respond, his phone vibrated in his pocket. He pulled it out, expecting a logistical update, but the screen displayed a text from Lauren. "I can't do this. I'm sorry." The words hit like a physical blow. Ethan reread them. Sure, he'd misread, but they remained stark and unyielding. The ballroom's opulence faded, the chatter of guests blurring into a distant roar. He handed the phone to his mother, unable to speak. Evelyn's sharp intake of breath confirmed the truth. "Nathan," she said, her tone shifting to the brisk efficiency that had made her a formidable figure in New York society. "We need to make an announcement." The next hour unfolded in a haze. Nathan took the microphone, his voice steady as he addressed the stunned guests. "Ladies and gentlemen, we regret to inform you that the wedding will not occur today. I appreciate your understanding." Ethan's father, Richard Caldwell, a stoic patriarch with decades of business acumen, ushered guests toward the exits while waitstaff cleared untouched champagne flutes and caviar canapes. Ethan stood frozen at the altar, the weight of 300 pitying glances pinning him in place. Only when the ballroom emptied did he collapse into a velvet chair, the silence deafening. "Son," Richard said, placing a heavy hand on his shoulder, "this isn't the end of the world." Ethan's laugh was hollow. "She didn't even have the decency to tell me to my face." Evelyn's lips pursed, her disapproval of Lauren evident. She was always more flash than substance. "This may be a blessing." Ethan wasn't listening. His phone buzzed again. Lauren calling. He silenced it, slipping it back into his pocket. The betrayal stung, not just for the love he thought they shared, but for the public humiliation now splashed across his carefully curated life. The society pages would feast on this for weeks. "I need to get out of here," he said, standing abruptly. "I can't stay in this city right now." "Of course," Richard said. "The penthouse is ready. We'll handle the fallout." Ethan shook his head, loosening his bow tie as if choking him. "Not the penthouse. Not anywhere she might find me." Evelyn's brow furrowed. "Where will you go, Ethan?" I don't know, he admitted, striding toward the exit, ignoring the sympathetic looks from the hotel staff. I'll be in touch. 2 hours later, Ethan was behind the wheel of his black Audi, the city skyline fading in his rearview mirror. His tuxedo jacket lay discarded in the back seat, a relic of a life that now felt like a costume. With no destination in mind, he drove north on the interstate, just away from the boardroom whispers, the socialite gossip, and the penthouse where Lauren's perfume still lingered. Rain began to fall, the sky darkening as his eyes burned with exhaustion. He'd been driving for hours, the road a blur of asphalt and regret. A green highway sign flickered in his headlights. Willowvale, next exit. He'd never heard of Willowvale, a small town in upstate New York, whose name was absent from the glossy travel guides he usually consulted. That obscurity made it perfect. No one would look for Ethan Caldwell, CEO, in a place like this. He took the exit, the road narrowing into a winding path through dense trees, the rain now a steady downpour. A warm glow appeared ahead as his tires crunched over gravel, a modest sign reading Willowvale Inn. Ethan parked and dashed through the rain, his dress shoes slipping on the wet stone path. A bell jingled as he pushed open the inn's door, water dripping from his hair onto the wooden floor. The lobby was cozy, with soft lamplight and the faint scent of cedar. Behind a polished counter stood a woman, her presence like a beacon in the storm. She was black, about 32, with warm brown eyes and a cascade of braids pulled into a neat bun. Her smile was genuine, radiating a quiet strength that made Ethan pause. "My goodness, you're soaked," she said, her voice rich with concern. "Let's get you dried off." She handed him a towel, her movements graceful but unpretentious. Ethan took it, grateful for the simple kindness. "I'm Amara Brooks," she said, "and this is my inn. Do you need a room?" Ethan felt the knot in his chest loosen for the first time that day, if only slightly. "Yes," he said, his voice rough. "I do." Morning sunlight streamed through the Magnolia Suites windows, painting the garden outside in hues of gold and crimson. Ethan Caldwell woke to the scent of coffee and something sweet baking, a stark contrast to the sterile silence of his Manhattan penthouse. For a moment, he lay still, disoriented by the absence of honking horns and buzzing notifications. Then the weight of yesterday, Lauren's text, the abandoned altar, his escape to Willowvale, came rushing back. Yet, the crushing humiliation he'd felt in New York seemed dulled, softened by the inn's quiet and Amara Brooks's unexpected kindness. He showered and dressed in his rumpled suit, his only clothes. The mirror reflected a man he barely recognized. No tie, no polished veneer, just Ethan, unshaven and uncertain. His phone, still off in the drawer, held dozens of messages he wasn't ready to face. Instead, he followed the aroma of breakfast to the inn's morning room, where mismatched tables overlooked a garden ablaze with autumn leaves. Amara moved among the guests, pouring coffee with a smile brightening the room. She spotted Ethan in the doorway and waved him to a table by the window. "Good morning," she said, setting a steaming mug before him. "Sleep okay?" Her voice was warm, but her eyes held a quiet question, as if gauging how much of last night's vulnerability lingered. Ethan admitted, "Better than I expected," surprised by the truth. "This place has a way of making things feel lighter." Amara's smile widened. "That's the highest praise an innkeeper can get. Hungry? We've got cornbread muffins and bacon today. My grandmother's recipe." "Starving," he said, his stomach rumbling in agreement. Ethan took in the morning room as she left to fetch his plate. It was cozy, with lace curtains and a mural depicting Willowvale's founders, black families and immigrants who'd built the town around its textile mill. Other guests, a mix of couples and families, chatted over their meals. their ease a world apart from New York's calculated social scenes. Ethan felt unburdened for the first time in years. No meetings, no deals, no expectations. Amara returned with a plate of golden muffins and crispy bacon. "Enjoy," she said, sliding a stack of local maps across the table. Willowvale's got more to offer than just breakfast. The trails by Crescent Lake are stunning this time of year. Ethan glanced at the maps, touched by her thoughtfulness. He said, "I just realized I've got nothing to wear but this suit," gesturing to his wrinkled jacket. "Any place in town for clothes?" "Carter's General Store on Main Street," Amara replied. "Jamal's got everything from jeans to jackets. Nothing fancy, but solid." She hesitated, then added, "You left in a hurry, didn't you?" Ethan's fork paused midair. "Yeah," he said, his voice tight. "Didn't plan this getaway." Amara nodded, her gaze soft but not prying. "If you need laundry done, we've got facilities for guests. Just holler." She moved to another table, leaving Ethan to his meal and a growing curiosity about her world. After breakfast, Ethan grabbed a map and walked into Willowvale, the autumn air crisp against his skin. Main Street was a vibrant patchwork of local shops, their facades adorned with murals celebrating the town's history. One depicted a mill worker's family, painted in bold strokes of ochre and blue, a testament to Willowvale's black and immigrant roots. At Carter's General Store, shelves brimmed with practical goods. Jamal Carter, a wiry man with a quick grin, rang up Ethan's purchases: jeans, t-shirts, a sweater. "Staying at Amara's Inn?" Jamal asked, bagging the clothes. "Is it that obvious?" Ethan said, half smiling. Jamal chuckled. "Small town. Word travels fast. Amara's done wonders with that inn. After the mill closed, this place was a ghost town. Her vision brought tourists back and kept our history alive." Ethan nodded, impressed. She mentioned her grandmother's legacy. "Sounds like Amara's carrying it well." Jamal's eyes gleamed with pride. "Better than well. She's family to us." Ethan left the store, his arms full of bags, and wandered to a diner called Maya's Place. The air inside was thick with the scent of collard greens and fried catfish. Maya, a stout woman with a booming laugh, poured him coffee. "You're Amara's guest?" she asked, sliding into the booth opposite him. Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Does everyone know?" Maya grinned. "Pretty much." "Amara, don't bring just anyone to Khalil's tavern. She's picky, and for good reason. This town owes her." She turned the inn into a beacon, bringing our festivities. Ethan sipped his coffee, intrigued. What was it like before her? Maya's expression sobered. Tough. The mill's closure hit hard. Jobs gone, families leaving. Amara came back from Atlanta and poured her heart into that inn. Now we've got tourists year-round, celebrating what makes Willowvale ours. She studied him. "You look like you could use some of her spark. What's got you running to a place like this?" Ethan hesitated, Lauren's text flashing in his mind. "Needed a break," he said. Maya nodded, her gaze knowing. "Sometimes a break's the start of something new. Stick around. Willowvale's got a way of showing you who you are." Her words echoed Amara's from the night before, stirring something in Ethan. He paid for his coffee and stepped back into the crisp air, Maya's words lingering like a challenge. Walking back to the inn, Ethan passed a park where a gazebo stood, its wood carved with the names of Willowvale's founders. He sat on a bench, the map forgotten in his hand. In New York, he was Ethan Caldwell, CEO, defined by his family's legacy and the deals he closed. Here, he was just Ethan, a man with a wrinkled suit and a bruised heart. Who was he without the title, the wealth, the expectations? Amara's courage, choosing her path over a safe life, made him question his own. His phone, still off, held the world he'd fled. He left it silent for now, letting Willowvale's warmth seep into him, a quiet promise of something he couldn't yet name. The late afternoon sun dipped low over Willowvale, casting a golden glow across the inn's garden as Ethan Caldwell stepped out of the Magnolia Suite. He wore the jeans and sweater he'd bought at Carter's General Store, the casual clothes feeling foreign yet freeing after years of tailored suits. The air carried a crisp autumn bite, mingling with the faint scent of wood smoke from somewhere in town. His phone remained in the drawer, its silence a deliberate choice to hold New York at bay. Amara Brooks suggested dinner at the Riverside Tavern, and the thought of her company stirred a warmth he hadn't felt since Lauren's text shattered his world. Amara waited on the inn's porch, her green sweater catching the sunlight, her braids loose and framing her shoulders. "Ready for some small-town flavor?" she asked, her smile playful but hinting of something more profound, as if testing whether he'd embrace her world. Ethan replied, stepping beside her as they walked toward Main Street. The town bustled quietly, locals nodding as they passed, their glances lingering on the stranger by Amara's side. Ethan sensed their curiosity, but felt no judgment, only the protective warmth of a community that cherished its own. The Riverside Tavern sat along the water's edge, its weathered wooden sign swaying gently above a porch strung with amber lights. Inside, the air hummed with laughter and the clink of glasses, the scent of gumbo and cornbread wafting from the kitchen. A small stage in the corner held instruments waiting for the night's band. Amara led Ethan through the crowded dining room to a back patio overlooking the river, where a fire pit crackled against the evening chill. "Khalil," she called, waving to a bearded man behind the bar. "Got a table for us?" "Always, Amara," Khalil replied, his grin wide as he approached. He eyed Ethan with friendly curiosity. "New guest, huh? Welcome to Willowvale." He extended a hand, his grip firm. "Khalil Jackson, owner and chef. Amara and I go way back. High school troublemakers turned respectable." Amara laughed, swatting his arm. "Speak for yourself. I was always decent." Khalil winked at Ethan. "She says that, but ask her about the time we snuck into the mill's old warehouse." Ethan smiled, charmed by their easy banter. "Sounds like a story I need to hear." Khalil set 2 glasses of red wine on their table, waving off payment on the house. "Amara only brings folks here when she likes them." Amara rolled her eyes, but a flush crept up her cheeks. "Please don't listen to him. Khalil's food is too good for me to keep to myself." They settled at a table near the fire pit, the river's gentle rush blending with the hum of conversation. The band, a local quartet called River Soul, took the stage, launching into a cover of a Nina Simone classic. The music wove jazz and folk, its rhythm infectious, pulling couples to a small dance floor. Amara tapped her foot, her eyes bright. She said, "This is what I love about Willowvale," leaning closer to be heard over the music. "It's alive, you know? Not just buildings, but stories, music, and people." Ethan nodded, struck by her passion. "It's different from where I'm from. Everything there feels staged." "City life?" she guessed, sipping her wine. Ethan hesitated, his CEO world a shadow he wasn't ready to reveal. "Yeah. Lots of noise, not much heart." Amara studied him, her gaze perceptive. "What do you do in all that noise?" He chose his words carefully. "I work with buildings, designing and developing them. It's challenging, but it's not always me." The admission slipped out, and he braced for her to press further, but she only nodded, as if understanding more than he'd said. Their food arrived, grilled shrimp with cornbread and roasted okra, bold yet comforting flavors. Amara explained that Khalil trained in New Orleans, and her pride was evident. Came back to make this place his own. Ethan took a bite, the dish rivaling any Manhattan restaurant. "He's good," he said, and meant it. The conversation flowed easily, Amara sharing tales of Willowvale's jazz nights and summer festivals, where locals celebrated their Black and immigrant heritage with food and song. Ethan found himself relaxing, the weight of his past loosening with each laugh. "Dance with me?" Amara asked as the band shifted to a slower tune, her hand extended. Ethan hesitated, his boardroom confidence useless here. He warned that I'm better at contracts than dancing, but he took her hand, her touch warm and steady. On the dance floor, they found a rhythm, her arms around his neck, his hands on her waist. She fit against him effortlessly, as if they'd done this 100 times. Locals glanced their way, some smiling, others whispering, their protectiveness of Amara clear. "You're not so bad at this," Amara teased, her breath warm against his ear. Ethan chuckled. "You're a good teacher." Her smile faltered slightly, and she looked away. "What's wrong?" he asked, sensing a shift. She sighed, her voice soft. "The last time I danced like this was with someone I thought I'd spend my life with. David. He didn't get this place, or me. I'm scared to let someone in again, only to watch them leave." Ethan's heart tightened, her vulnerability mirroring his fears. "I'm not going anywhere," he said, surprised by his certainty. "Not yet, anyway." Her eyes met his, searching. "Yet's a big word, Ethan." Before he could respond, the song ended, and she stepped back, her smile returning but guarded. "Another drink?" she suggested, leading him back to their table. The moment lingered, heavy with unspoken promises. As the band played on, Khalil joined them briefly, joking about Amara's knack for drawing people in. "Careful," he told Ethan with a grin. "She's got a way of making you feel at home, and then you're hooked." Ethan laughed, but the words struck deep. Amara's warmth and authenticity were pulling him in, and he wasn't sure he wanted to resist. When they left the tavern, the night air cool and sharp, Amara paused by the river. "Thanks for coming," she said softly. "It's been a while since I've done this." Ethan reached for her hand, a fleeting impulse. "Thank you for inviting me." Their fingers intertwined, and for a moment, the world was just them under the string light's glow. Then his phone, forgotten until now, buzzed in his pocket, a reminder of the life he'd left behind. He ignored it, but the sound lingered, a quiet warning that his past wasn't done with him yet. The morning after the Riverside Tavern, Ethan Caldwell woke to sunlight filtering through the Magnolia Suites curtains, the garden outside a riot of autumn reds and golds. The memory of dancing with Amara Brooks, her warmth against him, lingered like the faint jazz notes from last night. Yet, as he reached for his phone, still off since his arrival in Willowvale, a knot of unease tightened in his chest. He'd ignored the world he'd fled, but its pull was growing harder to resist. He dressed in the jeans and sweater from Carter's, their simplicity a quiet rebellion against his New York suits, and flipped on the phone. The screen lit up with notifications, missed calls from his parents, Nathan and Lauren, along with a flood of texts. One from Lauren, sent at 2 a.m., stopped him cold. "I know you're in Willowvale. We need to talk. I'm coming tomorrow." His stomach churned. How had she found him? He hadn't told anyone where he was going, not even Nathan. Then he remembered his credit card. The charges at the inn must have tipped off his assistant, who Lauren could charm or bully into spilling secrets. The thought of her invading this sanctuary, where he'd begun to feel like himself again, sent a chill through him. Willowvale, with its murals and music, had offered a reprieve from the scandal of his abandoned wedding. Now, Lauren's shadow loomed, threatening to drag him back. Ethan headed to the inn's morning room, where the scent of cornbread and coffee greeted him. Amara was there, arranging a vase of sunflowers on the buffet, her green sweater catching the light. She smiled when she saw him, but her expression faltered at his tense jaw. "You look like you didn't sleep off that whiskey," she teased, pouring him coffee. "Everything okay?" Ethan hesitated, the weight of Lauren's text pressing against him. He didn't want to burden Amara, but her steady gaze invited honesty. "Not exactly," he said, sliding into a chair. "My ex. She knows I'm here. She's coming today." Amara's hand paused on the coffee pot, her eyes searching his. "The one who sent the text?" she asked, her voice calm but laced with concern. Ethan nodded, staring into his mug. "Lauren. I don't know what she wants, but it's not good. She's not the type to let things go." Amara sat across from him, her presence grounding. "What do you want, Ethan? To run again? Or to face her?" Her question cut through his fog, sharp and direct. He met her gaze, struck by her ability to see past his defenses. "I don't know," he admitted. "Part of me wants to leave before she gets here, but that feels like letting her win." Amara leaned forward, her fingers tracing the edge of her mug. "When I left David, I was terrified. He wanted me to stay in Atlanta and keep playing a role that wasn't mine. Running to Willowvale wasn't just about the inn. It was about facing who I am without him. You can't hide from your past forever, Ethan. It'll find you, one way or another." Her words carried the weight of experience, and Ethan glimpsed the fear she'd overcome to build this life. "What if facing it ruins this?" he asked, gesturing vaguely to the inn, to her. "This place, it's the first thing that's felt real in a long time." Her smile was soft, tinged with vulnerability. "Real things don't break that easily, but you have to decide what's worth fighting for." She stood, squeezing his shoulder briefly. "I've got a wedding to set up today. Small ceremony by the lake. Find me later, if you need to talk." Ethan watched her go, her words echoing in his mind. She was right. He couldn't keep running. But the thought of Lauren's calculated charm clashing with Willowvale's sincerity made his skin crawl. The morning passed in a blur. Ethan wandered the inn's grounds, the lake shimmering under a clear sky. A wedding party arrived, and a family of about 15 members sang in the air as Amara directed them to the ceremony site. She crept, arranging chairs under a maple arbor, her focus contrasting with Ethan's restless thoughts. He watched her from a distance, marveling at how she made everyone feel seen, guests, staff, even the nervous bride, Emily. The town's history, woven into the inn's walls, seemed to come alive through her. Willowvale wasn't just a place. It was a community she'd helped revive, its Black and immigrant roots celebrated in every detail she curated. By noon, Ethan returned to his suite, unable to shake Lauren's message. He tried to distract himself with one of Amara's maps, tracing trails to Crescent Lake, but his mind kept circling back to New York, the boardroom, his parents, the life he'd built on expectations. Who was he here in Willowvale? Not Ethan Caldwell, CEO, but a man starting to see himself through Amara's eyes. Her courage, choosing her path over a safe one, challenged him to do the same. Yet Lauren's arrival threatened to unravel that fragile clarity. The wedding began at 2, a simple affair by the lake. Ethan sat at the back, the string quartet's soft notes mingling with the rustle of leaves. Emily walked down the aisle, her smile radiant, while Amara stood to one side, ensuring every detail was perfect. Her burgundy dress caught the sunlight, and Ethan couldn't look away. She was fully present, her joy for the couple evident in her quiet gestures. A straightened ribbon, a reassuring nod to the groom. Ethan forgot Lauren's text momentarily, lost in Amara's grace. But as the vows ended and guests moved to a reception tent, his phone buzzed again. Another message from Lauren. I'll be there by 4. Don't make this more complicated than it needs to be. His pulse quickened. 4 o'clock was an hour away. He scanned the crowd, half expecting to see her among the guests, her designer heels out of place on the grass. Amara caught his eye from across the tent, her expression questioning. He forced a smile, but the weight of Lauren's words pressed heavier. Whatever she wanted, it wasn't reconciliation. It was control. And Ethan wasn't sure he was strong enough to face her without losing the peace he'd found here, with Amara, in Willowvale's embrace. The reception tent by Willowvale's lake glowed with string lights, the laughter of wedding guests mingling with the soft strum of a guitar. Ethan Caldwell stood near the dance floor, his new sweater and jeans blending with the crowd. But his thoughts were elsewhere. Lauren Pierce's text, I'll be there by 4. Don't make this more complicated than it needs to be, had arrived an hour ago, and every rustle of the tent's entrance set his nerves on edge. The memory of Amara Brooks's steady advice from breakfast, urging him to face his past, anchored him. But the thought of Lauren's calculated presence in this honest place felt like a violation. Amara moved through the reception, her burgundy dress catching the light as she checked on guests. Her quiet efficiency, adjusting a centerpiece, reassuring the bride's mother, made the event feel effortless, a testament to her care for Willowvale's community. The town's history, rooted in Black and immigrant resilience, was woven into the celebration. A quilted banner, honoring the lake's role as a gathering place, hung above the arbor. Ethan watched her, marveling at how she embodied the inn's legacy, but his focus snapped back as a familiar figure appeared at the tent's entrance. Lauren stood there, her designer dress contrasting with the reception's rustic charm. Her blonde hair was swept into a flawless updo, her makeup accentuating her sharp cheekbones, but her eyes held a hardness Ethan hadn't noticed before. Guests glanced her way, their whispers rippling through the tent. Amara caught Ethan's gaze, her expression a mix of concern and encouragement, as if reminding him of her morning words. You have to decide what's worth fighting for. Ethan, Lauren said, her voice carrying a practiced note of emotion as she approached. Finally, she scanned the tent with a faint sneer. This place is quaint. Ethan kept his tone neutral, his hands in his pockets. What are you doing here, Lauren? She stepped closer, her heels sinking slightly into the grass. We need to talk, somewhere private. He hesitated, then nodded. The garden's quiet. He led her away from the tent, aware of Amara's watchful eyes and the curious stares of guests. The inn's garden was a haven of roses and maples, the air heavy with the scent of damp earth. Lauren stopped beneath a trellis, her posture poised but tense. I made a mistake, she said, her voice softer now. I panicked at the wedding, Ethan. The pressure, the expectations. It was too much. I thought I'd lose myself in your world. Ethan's jaw tightened, remembering her text. I can't do this. I'm sorry. Still raw. You didn't just panic, Lauren. You left me at the altar with a text. 300 people watched me unravel. Her eyes glistened, but he saw calculation behind the tears. I know, she said. I was scared. Your life, your name, your company. It's overwhelming. I could handle it, but I couldn't. Now I see what I lost. I want us back. Her words stirred a flicker of doubt, not for her sincerity, but for the life she represented. Ethan thought of New York's glittering chaos, the boardrooms where he'd thrived, the social circles where Lauren had shone. But the memory of Amara's warmth, her unfiltered honesty, grounded him. There is no us, Lauren, he said firmly. You made that choice when you walked away. I'm not going back. Lauren's expression hardened, her vulnerability replaced by a familiar edge. Is this about her? The innkeeper? She gestured toward the tent, where Amara was visible through the open flap, laughing with a guest. She's a small-town nobody, Ethan. What can she offer you that I can't? Her words stung, but Ethan's resolve held. Authenticity, he said without hesitation. Kindness. A connection that's real, not built on what I can provide, or how you look on my arm. Lauren laughed, the sound sharp and brittle. You're naive. She's playing you, just like everyone else. When she finds out who you are, Ethan Caldwell, CEO, heir to a fortune, her kind eyes will start counting dollar signs. Ethan shook his head, anger rising. You're wrong, and the fact that you think that says more about you than her. Lauren's smile turned cold. Play your little fantasy here, but New York's waiting. Your company, your family, your real life. This is just an escape. Maybe New York was the escape, Ethan countered, his voice steady. A life I built because it was expected, not because it was mine. Lauren studied him, her gaze narrowing. You've changed. It may not be for the better. She adjusted her handbag, her tone shifting to business-like efficiency. Your absence is causing problems. The board's nervous. The Thompson deal's shaky. You can't hide here forever. Ethan's hands clenched, the mention of his company pulling him back to the world he'd fled. I'm not hiding. I'm figuring out what matters. Lauren's eyes flickered with something like hurt, quickly masked. Fine. But when this falls apart, and it will, don't say I didn't warn you. She turned, her heels clicking on the garden path, leaving Ethan alone with her words echoing in his mind. He returned to the reception, the music and laughter a jarring contrast to his turmoil. Amara stood near the dance floor, directing the catering staff. She caught his eye, her expression questioning. Everything okay? She asked, stepping closer. Ethan exhaled, the weight of Lauren's accusations lingering. She's gone, for now, he said. But she got under my skin. Amara's hand brushed his arm, a fleeting comfort. She's your past. You get to choose your future. Her words steadied him, but Lauren's warning about Amara learning his true identity planted a seed of doubt. He hadn't told Amara he was a Caldwell, heir to a real estate empire. Would it change how she saw him? The thought tightened his chest, but as Amara smiled, her presence a quiet anchor, he pushed it aside. Dance with me? He asked, needing her closeness to ground him. She hesitated, glancing at the staff. One dance, she agreed, her smile softening the tension between them. They moved to a slow melody on the dance floor, her body fitting against his, as if made for it. The guests' whispers faded, Willowvale's warmth wrapping around them. She's wrong about you, Ethan murmured, his voice low. Amara looked up, her eyes searching. You don't know me that well yet, Ethan. Her tone was light, but her words carried weight, a reminder of the layers they'd yet to uncover. As the song ended, Ethan held her a moment longer, the shadow of Lauren's visit lingering, a warning that his past wasn't done with him yet. Ethan Caldwell woke to the soft chime of his phone, a stark contrast to the bird song that had greeted him in Willowvale. The Magnolia Suites curtains framed a garden still vibrant with autumn hues, but the notification on his screen shattered the morning's calm. An email from his best friend, Nathan, bore the subject line, Urgent, board meeting called. Ethan's pulse quickened as he opened it. Lauren's been talking to board members, claiming your absence signals instability. She's pushing for a temporary leadership change. Meetings Friday, 10 a.m. You need to be here. The words landed like a punch, pulling Ethan back to the world he'd fled. He dressed quickly in the jeans and sweater from Carter's, The casual clothes, a quiet defiance against the suits awaiting him in New York. Downstairs, the Willowvale Inn's morning room buzzed with guests, the air rich with the scent of cornbread and coffee. Amara Brooks was at the buffet, arranging a tray of muffins, her burgundy dress swapped for a simple blouse and jeans. Her smile faltered when she saw Ethan's tense expression. She said, "You look like trouble found you," pouring him coffee and sliding into the chair opposite his. "It did," Ethan said, his voice low. "Lauren's stirring things up at my company. She's convinced some board members I'm unfit to lead because I left after everything. There's a meeting on Friday. I have to go back to New York." Amara's eyes softened, but a flicker of disappointment crossed her face. "She said your company's essential to you." Her tone steady but careful. "You have to go." Ethan gripped his mug, the warmth grounding him. "It's not just the company. Lauren's trying to take away the one thing she thinks defines me, because I wouldn't take her back." Amara leaned forward, her gaze piercing. "Does it represent you? The company, I mean." A week ago, Ethan would have said yes without hesitation. Now, the question gnawed at him. "It's my family's legacy," he said finally. "I've poured everything into it. But what do I value most? I think that's here, with you." Her breath caught, and for a moment, her guard dropped, revealing a vulnerability mirrored in his own. "That's a big thing to say, Ethan," she said softly. "This place, this life, it's mine, but it's not easy. I walked away from someone who couldn't share it. I'm scared of going through that again." Her words echoed her confession at the tavern, her fear of loving someone who might leave. Ethan reached for her hand, his fingers intertwining with hers. "I'm coming back, Amara. Whatever happens in New York, I'm not done here." She squeezed his hand, her smile tinged with hope and caution. "You'd better." Willowvale's got a way of holding on to people who belong. She paused, then added, "Would you go to New York for someone like me? If I were the one with a big life somewhere else?" Ethan didn't hesitate for a heartbeat. "But I'd rather you come with me, on your terms." Amara laughed, the sound easing the tension. "New York's too loud for me, but I might be persuaded. Just don't make me chase you." "I won't," he promised, sealing it with a lingering kiss, her warmth starkly contrasting to the cold reality awaiting him. 2 hours later, his bag was packed, the Audi loaded. Amara stood with him in the inn's driveway, the lake glinting behind her. "Call me when you get there," she said, her voice firm despite the reluctance in her eyes. "So I know you're safe." Ethan nodded, memorizing the curve of her smile. "Every day until I'm back. A week, tops." She stepped closer, her arms wrapping around him. "I'll be here. The inn's not going anywhere, and neither am I." As Ethan drove away, Willowvale shrinking in his rearview mirror, a mix of determination and regret settled in his chest. Regret for leaving Amara, whose courage had begun to reshape him, but determination to face Lauren's schemes and reclaim his place. The drive to New York stretched long, the autumn trees giving way to concrete and chaos. His penthouse, unchanged since he'd fled, felt like a museum of his old life. Lauren's magazines on the coffee table, a bottle of her favorite wine in the fridge. Standing on the balcony, the city skyline sprawling before him, Ethan felt no thrill, only a hollow ache for Willowvale's quiet. His phone rang. Nathan's name flashed on the screen. "You're back," his friend said, relief evident. "Lauren's got Thompson, Martinez, and Goldstein on her side, 4 of 10 board members. Your father's holding the line, but he's worried." Ethan sighed, the weight of his responsibility settling in. "Set up a dinner with Thompson tonight. I'll handle him, Schedule Martinez and Goldstein for tomorrow. They strategized briefly, but as Ethan hung up, a text arrived. An invitation to a charity gala, the event he and Lauren once ruled. The temptation to slip back into that glittering world tugged at him, a siren call of familiarity. He dialed Amara instead, her voice cutting through the city's noise. "You made it?" she asked, a smile in her tone. "Yeah," he said, leaning against the balcony rail. "But it doesn't feel like home anymore." Amara laughed softly. "Home's where you make it, Ethan. How's the fight looking?" He exhaled, the gala invite still on his screen. "Complicated. Lauren's playing dirty, and this city, it's pulling me back to who I was." Her voice softened. "You're not that guy anymore. You're the one who danced with me to Nina Simone. Remember that." Her words steadied him, a reminder of the man he wanted to be. As they said goodnight, Ethan knew the real battle wasn't just for his company. It was for the life he was beginning to imagine with her. Ethan Caldwell strode into the towering glass headquarters of Caldwell Properties, the New York skyline glinting through the lobby's floor-to-ceiling windows. His tailored suit felt like armor, a stark contrast to the jeans he'd worn in Willowvale. But beneath the polished exterior, his heart raced. Lauren Pierce's campaign to oust him as CEO had forced his return, and today's board meeting would decide his fate. The weight of his family's legacy pressed against him. Yet Amara Brooks's voice from last night's call, "You're not that guy anymore," anchored his resolve. He wasn't just fighting for his title, but for the man he wanted to be. Nathan, his best friend and ally, clapped him on the shoulder in the elevator. "You look like hell," Nathan said, his bluntness softened by concern. "Sleep at all?" Ethan shook his head. "Not much. Lauren's got 4 board members on her side. I've secured 3, but it's tight." Nathan nodded, his jaw set. "Your father's holding steady, but Lauren's with her father and Peterson in the conference room. They're planning something." Ethan's stomach tightened at the mention of Lauren's lawyer, Peterson. "Let's get this over with," he said, stepping into the boardroom. The room was a study in power. A mahogany table, high-backed leather chairs, and a panoramic view of Manhattan. The 10 board members sat in tense silence, Ethan's father, Richard, at the head. Lauren sat midway down, her designer suit impeccable, her smile calm and confident. Beside her, her father, Charles Pierce, and Peterson exchanged hushed words. Ethan took his seat, buttoning his jacket, his expression steady despite the doubt Lauren had planted in Willowvale. Would Amara see him differently if she knew the full scope of his world? Richard cleared his throat. This emergency meeting was called to address concerns about Ethan's leadership. Ms. Pierce has raised questions about his stability following recent personal events. "Ethan, you have the floor." Ethan stood, his voice calm but firm. "Thank you. My brief absence was to process an individual matter, but I remained available for critical decisions. The Thompson deal is secure. The Bryant Properties zoning issues are resolved, and the charity gala is on track. My commitment to this company is unwavering." Murmurs of approval rippled through the room, but Lauren stood, her eyes gleaming. As always, Ethan's presentation is polished, but sidesteps the real issue, his judgment. Days after our wedding was canceled, he fled to a small town and entangled himself with a woman he barely knew. This impulsiveness questions his fitness to lead. Ethan's hands were clenched, and her words were a calculated jab at his connection with Amara. "My personal life is irrelevant," he countered. "This is about the company's performance, which I've proven is strong." Lauren nodded to Peterson, who distributed folders to the board. "Evidence suggests otherwise," she said, her voice dripping with false concern. "The woman, Amara Brooks, has a history of targeting wealthy men. She abandoned her fiancé in Atlanta after inheriting valuable property, and now she set her sights on Ethan's fortune. Ethan's blood ran cold. The accusation was a lie, but the folder's contents, photos of Amara meeting Peterson in a restaurant, documents spread between them, sowed doubt. Had he misjudged her? Before he could respond, his phone buzzed with a text from Amara. "Whatever Lauren's telling you is a lie. I met her lawyer about supposed threats to the inn. It was a setup. Call me." Relief washed over him, followed by anger at Lauren's manipulation. He looked up to find her watching him, a smug smile on her lips. "Enough," Ethan said, his voice cutting through the room's murmurs. "I request a brief recess to present evidence that refutes these claims." Richard nodded. 30 minutes. Ethan set up a video call in the conference room, his hands steady despite his racing heart. Amara's face appeared on the screen, her expression calm but resolute, and the inn's morning room was visible behind her with its mural of Willowvale's founders. "Ms. Brooks," Ethan said, addressing the board, "you've been accused of targeting me for financial gain. Please respond." Amara's voice was clear, unwavering. "I own the Willowvale Inn, a place my grandmother built to serve our community. Black families, immigrants, anyone needing a home. Yesterday, Mr. Peterson contacted me, claiming a developer threatened my business. At our meeting, he offered me $2 million to end my relationship with Ethan and claim I pursued him for money. I refused. My life, my work, is here. I have no interest in Ethan's wealth, only in who he is when he's not playing a role." Gasps echoed around the table. Lauren's face drained of color, her composure cracking. Peterson shifted uncomfortably. "I acted on my client's instructions," he muttered. All eyes turned to Lauren, who stood abruptly. "This is absurd. She's lying to protect her scheme." Richard's voice cut in, sharp. "We're here to discuss leadership, not personal vendettas. Let's vote." The vote was swift, 8-2 in Ethan's favor, with only Charles Pierce and an ally dissenting. Lauren stormed out, her father and Peterson trailing behind. The board members dispersed, offering Ethan nods of support. Ethan exhaled with his father, but the screen still showed Amara. "She's impressive," Richard said, a rare smile tugging at his lips. "I want to meet her." Ethan nodded, his eyes on Amara. "You will." He turned to the screen. He said, "I'm sorry I doubted you, even for a moment." Amara's smile was gentle. "You had reason to be confused. That photo looked bad, but you trusted me enough to let me explain." Ethan's chest tightened. "I'm coming back today, Amara. I need to see you." Her eyes softened. "I'll be here. But your company, don't you need to stay?" Ethan shook his head. "I've got plans to make this work for both of us." As the call ended, Ethan faced his father. "I want to restructure my role," he said. "Delegate daily operations to a COO, focus on strategy, and split my time with Willowvale." Richard's brow furrowed. "That's a risk, Ethan. The board expects you here, leading the legacy we built." Ethan stood firm. "I can lead it my way, on my terms, not at the cost of who I am. Amara showed me that." Richard studied him, then nodded slowly. "You've changed. Prove it can work." Ethan left the boardroom, the city's chaos fading as he thought of Willowvale's quiet lake, Amara's steady presence, and the life he chose, not the one he'd been handed. The boardroom of Caldwell Properties buzzed with tension, and the Manhattan skyline was a stark backdrop through the towering windows. Ethan Caldwell stood at the head of the mahogany table, his tailored suit a mask for the turmoil within. Lauren Pierce's accusation that Amara Brooks was targeting his fortune had landed like a grenade, the photos of her meeting with Peterson, Lauren's lawyer, sowing doubt among the board. Yet Amara's text was a setup. Call me, and it had reignited Ethan's trust. Now, as the board reconvened after a brief recess, a large screen flickered to life, displaying Amara's face, her expression calm but resolute, the Willowvale Inn's morning room behind her, its mural of the town's founders, a quiet nod to its heritage. Ethan faced the 10 board members, his father, Richard, at the table's head, his gaze steady but probing. Lauren sat opposite, her incredible smile betraying confidence, flanked by her father, Charles, and Peterson. Ethan began, and his voice was firm. Members of the board, Ms. Brooks, have been accused of exploiting me for financial gain. She's here to respond. He nodded to the screen, where Amara sat, her blouse crisp, her braids swept back, her eyes meeting the camera with unwavering clarity. "Thank you, Ethan," Amara said, her voice steady, cutting through the room's tension. "I'm Amara Brooks, owner of the Willowvale Inn, a place my grandmother built as a haven for our community. Folks who carved out a life here when the world wasn't always welcoming. Yesterday, Mr. Peterson contacted me, claiming a developer threatened my business with a resort project. He asked to meet to discuss legal options." She held up a document, its text visible on the screen. Instead, he presented a draft agreement offering me $2 million to end my relationship with Ethan and claim I pursued him for his wealth. I refused. Gasps rippled around the table. Lauren's face paled, her composure fracturing. Amara continued, her tone unwavering. "I built the inn with my hands and ingenuity to honor my grandmother's dream. It's not just a business, a promise to keep Willowvale's heart alive, a place where history and community matter more than money." When I realized Peterson's offer was a setup, I left. I tried to call Ethan, but my phone stopped working until this morning. Her eyes softened, meeting Ethan's through the screen. "I care about him for who he is, not what he has. That's the truth." Ethan's chest tightened, relief mingling with admiration. Her words weren't just a defense, but a declaration of her values, rooted in the same resilience that defined Willowvale. Peterson shifted uncomfortably, his voice low. "I was following my client's instructions." All eyes turned to Lauren, who stood, her voice sharp. "This is ridiculous. She's lying to cover her scheme." Richard's voice cut through, authoritative. "Ms. Pierce, you've made serious allegations. Ms. Brooks has answered them. Let's move to the vote." The board members exchanged glances, the folders of Lauren's evidence now irrelevant. The vote was decisive, 8-2 in Ethan's favor, with only Charles and an ally dissenting. Lauren stormed out, her heels clicking furiously, followed by her father and Peterson. The remaining board members congratulated Ethan before dispersing, leaving him alone with Richard and Amara's image on the screen. "She's formidable," Richard said, a rare warmth in his tone. "I look forward to meeting her." Ethan nodded, his eyes on Amara. "You will." He turned to the screen, his voice soft. "I'm sorry I doubted you, even for a second." Amara's smile was gentle, forgiving. "That photo was meant to shake you. I get it. We haven't known each other long, and trust takes time. But you gave me a chance to explain, and that's enough." Ethan's throat tightened. "I'm coming back to Willowvale today. I need to see you." Her eyes brightened, but a flicker of concern crossed her face. "What about your company? After all this, don't you need to stay and smooth things out?" Ethan shook his head. "I've got a plan. Restructure my role, delegate operations, and split my time between here and there. I meant what I said, Amara. You're what matters." Her smile widened, but she hesitated. "That's a significant change, Ethan. It scares me to know how different our worlds are. I've fought to make mine my own. I don't want to lose that." "You won't. he promised. We'll figure it out together. As the call ended, Richard placed a hand on Ethan's shoulder. You're serious about this? About her? It wasn't a question. Ethan met his father's gaze. I am. She's shown me who I can be, not just who I've been. Richard nodded, his expression thoughtful. Your grandfather built this company from nothing. I expanded it. We thought you'd take it global. Can you do that from a small town? I can, Ethan said, conviction in his voice. On my terms, with a life that's mine, not just the one expected of me. Richard's eyes softened. Then make it work. But know the board won't like it. They'll need convincing. Ethan nodded, the challenge clear but not daunting. He felt sure of his path for the first time. For the first time, not as CEO Ethan Caldwell, but as Ethan, the man Amara saw. He left the boardroom, the city's hum fading as he thought of Willowvale's lake, its jazz-filled nights, and Amara's steady presence. Lauren's deceit had tested him, but Amara's truth had won. Not just the board's vote, but his heart. As he stepped into the elevator, his phone buzzed with a text from Amara. Hurry back. The inn's waiting. Ethan smiled, the weight of New York lifting. He was going home. Not to the penthouse, but to her. The sun dipped low over Willowvale, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose, as Ethan Caldwell's black Audi crunched into the Willowvale Inn's gravel driveway. The familiar sight of the inn, its porch aglow with lantern light, felt like a homecoming after the sterile chaos of New York. Ethan stepped out, his jeans and sweater a far cry from the suit he'd worn in the boardroom hours ago. The victory over Lauren Pierce's schemes, securing his position as CEO with Amara Brooks's truthful testimony, had lifted a weight. But it was Amara's text, hurry back. The inn was waiting for his drive through the autumn dusk. Amara stood on the porch, her blouse and jeans catching the fading light, her braids loose around her shoulders. She ran to him, throwing her arms around him with a warmth that erased the city's lingering chill. You're here, she said, her voice muffled against his chest, her embrace fierce. Ethan held her close, breathing in her hair's faint scent of jasmine. He said, I told you I'd come back, pulling back to meet her eyes. They shone with relief, but a shadow of caution lingered, as if she feared his world might draw him away. They walked to the inn's garden, where roses and maples glowed under the twilight. Ethan took her hands, his heart racing. I meant what I said on the call, Amara. I want to make this work. Us, here, and my life in New York. I've talked to my father about restructuring my role, delegating operations to a COO so I can focus on strategy, and splitting my time between Willowvale and the city. Amara's eyes widened, her fingers tightening in his. You're serious about this, she said, her voice a mix of hope and apprehension. That's a significant change. It is, Ethan admitted. But you've shown me what it means to live for myself, not just for what's expected. I want to be here with you as much as possible. Amara's smile was radiant, but she stepped back, her gaze searching. Ethan, I like that too. But our worlds are different. Your life in New York comes with scrutiny and expectations. I've been in corporate spaces before and felt the eyes on me, judging. I've fought to make this inn, this town, my own. I'm scared of losing that if I step into your world. Her vulnerability hit him, echoing her fears about past relationships. Ethan nodded, his voice gentle. I get it. I've seen how you've poured your heart into this place, into Willowvale's history. I'd never ask you to give that up. But we can find a balance together. He paused, choosing his words carefully. The board won't make it easy. They'll question my focus and push back on me working remotely. And I'll need to be in New York for key meetings, maybe a week a month. But I can make Willowvale my base if you have me. Amara's laugh was soft, tinged with nerves. A semi-permanent guest at the inn? That's a new one. She glanced at the garden, where a quilted banner from the wedding still hung, a symbol of the town's community spirit. I'd need to hire more staff to cover when I'm distracted by a certain city guy. The inn's my responsibility, my grandmother's legacy. It's not just about me. It's about keeping this place alive for Willowvale, for the people who made it what it is. Ethan stepped closer, his hands on her waist. I know, and I want to support that, not pull you away. We can work out the logistics, hire help, and set up a schedule. I'll deal with the board's pushback and prove I can lead from here. But I need to know you're doing this with me. Amara's eyes searched his, her fingers brushing his cheek. I'm in, Ethan. It scares me. Our worlds are so far apart, and I've lost someone to that before. But you're worth the risk. Relief flooded him, and he kissed her, the connection deep and unhurried, unlike the calculated passion he'd known with Lauren. This was real, grounded in trust and shared vulnerability. When they parted, breathless, Amara's smile was teasing. You'll have to get used to small-town life, jazz nights, festivals, and nosy neighbors. Ethan grinned. I'm ready. Besides, I've survived Khalil's teasing and Maya's coffee lectures. Amara laughed, the sound easing the tension of their conversation. They sat on a garden bench, the stars beginning to speckle the sky. Amara leaned against him, her voice soft. When I took over the inn, I was terrified I'd fail. But every day, I choose to keep going, to make it mine. This, us. It feels like another choice I want to make. Ethan wrapped an arm around her, the lake's gentle ripple a backdrop. I've spent years choosing what was expected, my company, my name. You've shown me I can choose what feels right. That's you, Amara. She turned to him, her eyes bright. What happens when New York pulls harder? Your board, your family, they won't let go easily. Ethan nodded, the challenge clear. They won't. My father is already skeptical, and the board must be convinced. But I'm not backing down. I'll set up a home office here and fly to New York when required. We'll make it work, one step at a time. Amara squeezed his hand. One step at a time, she echoed, her smile a promise. As they walked back to the inn, hand in hand, the lantern-lit porch welcomed them. Willowvale's quiet strength, its history of resilience woven into the inn, the lake, the community, felt like a foundation they could build on. Ethan knew challenges lay ahead, boardroom battles, logistical hurdles, and the scrutiny Amara feared. But with her beside him, those obstacles seemed surmountable, a path to a life that was theirs, not dictated by his past or name. The stars glittered above Willowvale, their light dancing on the lake's surface, as Ethan Caldwell and Amara Brooks walked hand in hand along the shore. The night air was crisp, carrying the distant hum of the town's annual harvest festival, where lanterns and music celebrated Willowvale's Black and immigrant heritage. The inn's porch glowed behind them, a beacon of warmth in the autumn chill. Ethan's return from New York, and his victory over Lauren Pierce's schemes, cemented by Amara's unwavering truth, solidified his resolve to build a life here. The weight of his past, his abandoned wedding, the boardroom battles, felt like a distant echo, overshadowed by the woman beside him. They paused at a wooden dock jutting into the lake, where a bench faced the water. Amara leaned against Ethan, her breath visible in the cool air. "This festival," she said, her voice soft, "is my favorite time of year. My grandmother used to tell stories of the mill workers, how they'd gather here to share food, music, and dreams. I fought to keep the inn alive, to hold on to that spirit." Ethan squeezed her hand, struck by her connection to Willowvale's history. "You've done more than that," he said. "You've made this place a home, not just for you, but for everyone here." Amara's smile was radiant, but her eyes held a trace of vulnerability. "I wasn't sure I could, you know. When I left Atlanta and David, I was running from a life that didn't fit. Taking on the inn was a leap. Sometimes I wonder if I'm enough." Ethan turned to her, his hands framing her face. "You're more than enough, Amara. You showed me what it means to choose yourself, to build something real. I was lost when I arrived, but you're my home now." Her eyes shimmered, and she leaned into his touch. "That's a big thing to say, Ethan. Your world in New York, it's not gone. The board, your family, they'll keep pulling. Are you sure you're ready for this?" Her voice carried the weight of her past fears, the memory of a love that couldn't bridge her world. Ethan nodded, his gaze steady. "I'm sure about you. The rest, the board's skepticism, the commute, the logistics, we'll figure it out, together." Amara laughed softly, the sound easing the tension. "Together's a big word, but I'll need to hire another manager to keep the inn running when you're stealing my focus." She gestured towards the festival, where laughter and jazz drifted from the town square. "And you'll have to survive Willowvale's nosy neighbors and potluck dinners." Ethan grinned, pulling her closer. "I've faced boardrooms and Lauren's schemes. I can handle a potluck. Besides, Khalil's gumbo is worth it." They stood, walking toward the festival, where stalls lined Main Street, offering sweet potato pie, collard greens, and handmade quilts. A mural of Willowvale's founders glowed under lantern light, a testament to the town's resilience. Locals greeted Amara with warm nods, their curiosity about Ethan softened by her presence. Khalil waved from a food stall, shouting, "City boys back for good, huh?" Amara laughed, her arm looping through Ethan's. "Maybe," she called back, her smile teasing but proud. At the festival's heart, a band played a soulful tune, couples swaying on a makeshift dance floor. Ethan pulled Amara into the crowd, their bodies finding a familiar rhythm. She teased, "You're getting good at this," her hands resting on his shoulders. Ethan's voice was low, earnest. "I had a good teacher. You've shown me more than dancing, Amara. You've shown me who I can be. Not the CEO, not the name, just me." Her eyes softened, and she leaned closer. "I like you, but I'm still scared. Our worlds, the distance, the scrutiny." Ethan stopped dancing, his hands on her waist. "I know. My father warned me the board won't like me working from here. I'll need to fly to New York for big deals, maybe a week a month. But I'll set up an office at the inn and make this my base. You'll face scrutiny too, and I hate that. But we'll face it together, build something that's ours." Amara's smile was slow and confident. "My grandmother used to say, 'Lose everything to find what matters.' I lost a life I thought I wanted. You lost one too. This may be what matters." He kissed her, the festival's music fading as their connection deepened, a promise sealed under the stars. When they parted, breathless, Ethan rested his forehead against hers. "I came here thinking I'd lost everything. Lauren, my reputation, my control. Now I see it was the best thing. It led me to you." Amara's laugh was soft, her eyes bright. "One day at a time, Ethan, starting now." They rejoined the festival, sharing a slice of pie as Khalil teased them about becoming town fixtures. The crowd's warmth, the music's rhythm, and Willowvale's history wrapped around them, a tapestry of resilience and love. Ethan knew challenges awaited, boardroom pushback, the logistics of their dual lives, the scrutiny Amara feared, But as they danced again, her laughter mingling with the jazz, he felt a certainty he'd never known in New York. Home wasn't a penthouse or a title. It was her, this town, this moment, a life they'd build step by step, together.